Many of you know I'm a pastor. I've been a pastor now for 21 years. Crazy. Now, when I went into ministry, I was actually at a church camp. I was working as a lifeguard with my wife, who was a lifeguard nurse. There's a whole story to that. So the rumor was the lifeguard was sleeping with the nurse, which was true. But we were married. Nevertheless, one night I felt God's call in my life to go into ministry. I really did. And I remember talking to my wife about it. I dropped it on her as she was giving the night meds to the kids. And she, big old eye, because that was not my intent. I don't believe that was my desire. And her family is all in ministry. And I didn't want to come across like, oh, Jared's trying to do what Jenny's family does. I didn't want to do that. And so I talked to her dad. And I tried to... I kind of ignored it for a while. And then one day felt like the Lord was saying, let's do this. So I got up, I made a resume. I had no experience. I put on the resume, puppet ministry. I volunteered, and then eventually I led a puppet ministry. How about that? And I'm building PVC and curtains and all this stuff for puppets. This is a lot of work. But so when I felt God's call to ministry, I started putting a resume together. Lo and behold, a church reaches out to me and says, we'd like to talk with you. Now, I had a brother-in-law about 20 minutes away, and he was crushing it. I think they thought we got one of them. No. And I told him in the interview, it's by marriage, not by blood. So, I had to cut my teeth. Literally. I had help, but I had to cut my teeth. I didn't know what I was doing. Eventually, I got my degree and all that stuff. If you're listening and you're getting stressed out, whatever. But the call was confirmed, if you will. It wasn't me just trying to work in a climate-controlled environment. But I had no clue what I was doing. One of the things that I had no clue about, and to this day I say, I'm not sure I have much of a clue about, is counseling. I'm not a counselor. I'm a pastor. And I'll tell people that. Hey, you do some counseling? Sometimes they want counseling because they want free. They want a free person that me and my spouse can just empty our life on, or I can empty my life on and I don't have to pay for anything. And so, I have to set some parameters there, but one of the things that makes no sense to me, and again, I'm not a counselor. If you need counseling, you should get counseling. And it may not be from your pastor, especially if your desire is for free. Okay? Because when I meet with people, I'm a fix-it guy. Like, that's how I'm wired. So to me, is it a can't do or a won't do? A won't do means I'm just not going to do these things. A can't do is I didn't know these things existed. I remember talking to a couple once about, you should not be living together before marriage. And they said, we've never heard that before. So, okay, well then let's rectify that. Let's make that right. I'll talk to couples in premarital counseling, like, hey, here's some things you need to consider. And they're young and in love and they ignore everything you say. But, at least you said it. I've talked to couples who are having marital problems. And they'll blame everybody but themselves, and then eventually you're the problem, which I'm okay with that. One of the things I will not understand is if you call up somebody or you meet with somebody or you go to their office, whatever, and you empty out your problems, why do people not heed the counsel that they receive? Some people have a problem for every solution, no matter what comes up. You're already doing it. You already know more. You're way ahead of this or that or the other. I just tried to look up some verses here for context. Again, go back to Scripture, get in the Word. Proverbs 12:15, the way of a fool is right in his own eyes. I'm not calling you a fool. But if you're unloading your life with somebody, on the phone, at a coffee shop, at a restaurant, wherever, parking lot, wherever, and you're unloading your life, you are a fool, though, if you're right in your own eyes. If you say, I'm doing everything right, they're doing everything wrong. I had a couple I counseled years ago, and all of their problems could be traced back to the mother-in-law. Maybe. I don't know. I'm just listening. I gave them some things to work on and when we'd stop. Hey, I want you to do these few things, let's just see how this goes. Come back. Let's talk about it. Did you do them? No. But they would blame her. The irony is, at some point after us meeting, the mother-in-law who was divorced got remarried. as she got remarried, the new husband said, yeah, we're not getting tangled up in those weeds. And guess what? The couple who blamed the mother-in-law, unfortunately, they got divorced. Come to find out, it wasn't as much the mother-in-law's fault as they tried to make it out to be. They were just looking for a scapegoat. And so you meet with people and you talk with them, and they just vomit their life on you, but they already know everything. So at some point, I'll say, then what are we doing here? Like, what are we doing here? If you already know, you have all the answers, you're smarter than all the experts, no matter what analogy I have, you have a different analogy. What do you need me for? Did you just tap out of all the other resources? And like a leech, you just took, and you're like, I don't have anybody in my life. Maybe that's the deal. I don't know. Proverbs 15:22, without counsel, plans will fail, but with many advisors, they succeed. If you're talking to somebody and everything they're telling you, you already know, maybe you just say, thanks, man, I appreciate that. Thank you for taking time to listen to me. Even if you walk back to the car or hang up the phone or walk out of their office and say, I ain't doing none of that stuff, that's fine. But why on earth would you take their time? And it's never like 10 minutes. Why on earth would you take their time to only tell them continually, you already know? Again, you know all the verses, you know all the things, you know everything. Maybe that is part of the problem. Maybe part of your problem is you already know. You already know all the things, and so whatever you're doing in your life, you're under the assumption everybody else is wrong and you're right. Nothing is going to change if you won't at least absorb the counsel. I've said on a number of occasions, and I won't get into them right now because we don't have time. Some of the best counsel I ever received in life that I still take with me to this day, I didn't want to hear it in the moment. And I honestly thought they were wrong when they shared it. I can think of a couple instances right now. I honestly thought they were wrong when they shared it. But I listened to it. I didn't argue with them. I didn't tell them how I was right and they were wrong. I didn't tell them, well, what you don't know is, okay, that guy's exhausting. What you don't know is, no, I don't know any of these things. As a matter of fact, I don't even want to be here. I want to go home. I want to go, whatever. The best counsel you will ever receive is the counsel where you just listen. And you say, okay, I appreciate that. What was that verse again? What was that book? What was that thing? I'm going to try some of those things because maybe, just maybe, going back and trying them again with a fresh approach might be better than walking out saying, well, I feel better. I just unloaded my life. I plan on changing absolutely nothing, but at least I got to vent to somebody. I do believe there's a time and a space to vent. But if you really want to get better, you're going to have to at least at the minimum, listen to the counsel.